18 minutes after noon. I am a few minutes later, but I had to hunt for these suckers because I needed them. So it took me just a minute to get ready. Had to cut this thing because I've had it wrapped and drying for a while now, but I have to wrap it with jute, and so I can start the process. So it took me just a few moments to find my clippers and get started. Now what I'm going to do is start part of this online so you can see how to start one. And then I'm going to stop and finish the rest over a time lapse so that you don't have to stay with me forever, because that's what it will feel like today if you try to watch me do this the whole way through. Now, one of the most difficult parts of starting a Dreamcatcher is trying to lace the brace. And I'm going to attempt to do this with jute and not leather because I have an idea of what I want this one to look like. But just rest assured this may not work. And I may have to go back and bind it with leather, which is okay if I do. I'm just trying to not I was trying to not have that look with this one. So I'm going to tip the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is I've got it held in my hand where I've got it pulled together, and I've created my loop to do my gathering knot. I've got the tail here and the loop up here. Same piece of string. I'm just going to start wrapping. We'll see if this will hold instead of leather. I'm hoping it will, so that then by the time that I actually weave it, it will hold and I won't have to have any other cumbersome leather. I'm just here to tell you, this may not work. So, to brace your frame, you always want to look for your weak spots. Now, this one doesn't have many weak spots, but it definitely has its own shape. This is willow. Definitely has its own shape. It's definitely got its own vibe going on. And it definitely has its own little funky momentum. So some of the stuff I will be putting on it will be to augment some of the odd characteristics that the wood has. But I try to never completely steer away from the odd characteristics of the wood, because normally it's the odd characteristics of the wood that tell me a lot about the person I'm weaving for. So now that I've got that wrapped through, I'm going to put it through my loop. I'm going to hold it under my thumb, and I'm going to pull my string down here. And I'm going to pull that halfway through until it goes down in. And then I'm going to pull on both sides so it tightens the knot. And now I have a gathering knot. Now I will also be doing a secondary knot up here just for safe holding, so I don't get smacked in the face by this thing while I start weaving. Now I had it wrapped and tied like a pretzel, and so the wood does want to have a rounded shape to it, and I will have to augment, bend, twist, and kind of work with it as I begin weaving to kind of get the warp out of it. But I will not take the entire warp out of it, because that normally indicates something about the person I'm weaving for. And so I never take the whole personality. Hi, April. I never take the whole personality out of the frame, because the frame tells me a lot about the person that I'm weaving for. So once I get this, I'm going to do another gathering knot, make a loop up here, go back down, and start going around to brace. So I never will completely take the characteristics out of the wood, because that normally indicates something that I need to know about the person that I'm weaving for. So I normally work with it as much as I can aesthetically. If I really don't like it, I will go get another frame and start over. But I found when I do that, it normally does the same thing. If it's meant for that person, it normally does the same thing. So I just deal with it and go on. Because apparently it's something that both myself and the person I'm weaving for needs to be aware of. So I'm just doing another gathering knot over the brace. Now sometimes you can weave these together and you don't have to brace them. I just don't like the look. Now I do weave them together like a pretzel and let them dry, but I don't like the look that it creates because it does that and makes one side thicker than the other side. So I normally try to find just a point where it makes a shape that I am okay with, and then I brace it. I had a young man that I wove one for not too long ago, and I had to brace a third of his frame. It kept wanting to give. Everything that I wanted to put on his kept happening in threes. And every time that I tried to like put on a decorative bead or something, it literally would take me three tries. And I asked him what was the big deal with three. I was like, what is the big deal with three in your life? Because I have had to do everything on this thing 3 times over. And he said, oh, I'm the first of 3 children, and right now I'm having to take care of my parents and my siblings, and it's causing me a lot of stress. And I thought, oh, well, that would do it. So he learned something about himself, and I learned something about listening to what the weave teaches me. So I thought that was pretty neat, and that we both got a message out of that. So I try to listen and not augment the wood if it really wants, if the willow really wants to be a shape or do something, I tend to let it. Because if I don't, I'm going to catch heck for the rest of the process. So I might as well listen to it. So I just really did not want to put a leather anchor binding on this one. Okay, I'm at the end now. I'm going to put my string through the loop again. And I really don't like this way of tightening and binding, but the way that this, because sometimes it's hard like this, but the way that this wood is really rough, I don't think leather would do it. So I had to deal with what I could get to work. So now I'm pulling that back through. Sometimes it can be hard and I break it, but I get it in there. So now I've got that knot to about right there. It is in there, and I can clip off that. Now what I will do before I finish this off is I actually put leather cement here and here, and actually that jute will turn hard as a rock. Now this is a very strange shape. Let me just scoot this back. This is a very strange shaped hoop. So as I weave, I will be working with it and hopefully not breaking anything. And I've left some sticker points here that I probably need to cut off. It was hard to cut them off when they were green, and they can be a pain in the butt even when they dry. I need better shears. And so try to get these off or they will catch my cording and rip my twine. And I used waxed jute. The only reason I used waxed jute is because my hands, I have so many calluses on my fingers, if you can see, right through here, that when if I use the regular jute like this, it will actually tear into my finger and rip them open. So my calluses are so bad, I have to use the waxed, or I will end up bleeding while I'm trying to do this. Hi, Mischief. Hi, Snugglepuss. You're crocheting doggy sweaters. I slept a little bit. I didn't sleep a whole lot last night, but I slept a little bit. and just kind of got back up this morning and thought, well, let's just get something accomplished. David actually has today off, so I'm trying to be a little worker bee so I can help him with some stuff if my energy will stay. Now I'm going to start out with a dark gray, then I'm going to go to a silver, and then I'm going to go to a white. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Now, I may completely change my mind. We all know how I am. That's the plan. I may put some maroon in because I do have some maroon beads. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But right now, at this point, I'm going to make the smaller side of this the top. Though it may change as I progress in the weaving. Now, these have been drying for, these have been drying for a couple weeks, 3 weeks. So they have been pretzel curled in my kitchen for a couple weeks. I'll cut these off and burn them with a lighter when I get a minute. For the first few rounds, what I do is just kind of wad up the string so that I don't have to deal with a needle. And normally what I do when I weave is I use my finger as spacing, and I use from that little fat bend to the tip to space my outer ring. And that normally gives me a tighter inside weave when I get there. So that's pretty much what I do. I have no big tech savvy way of doing this. I don't measure, I don't mark it with a folded piece of paper because I like the personality that comes out when you do it this way. Y'all may hear David. He's in here rummaging around fixing to get some food. He's been up a lot longer than I have. I had a really rough night. I'm still sitting here with a lot of darn patches on my knees because my knees were so bad. How in the world did I do that? My knees were so bad last night. So had a rough night. It wasn't pleasant. Hadn't had a night like that in a long time. So when you go through and you wrap, you got to make sure that you come back through the inside. So when I go around, I come back inside the loop, and that creates a little leverage point to where it really won't move. But you still have control if you have a plastic needle or another needle that you can actually move it if you need to. So it's not something you can't undo, and it's not super permanent, but it holds while you're doing everything else. And once you get the full weave done, it's not going to go anywhere because it will have so much pull on it that it won't give. So the outer round is the one that takes the longest time, and the ones that take the most tedious for my eyes are the smaller ones where I do the needlework. And oh my gosh, hi music, hi Misfit. The inner rounds are the ones that really screw with my eyeballs. That's why I'm so excited about getting glasses again. We'll get my glasses fixed and re-upped. So when people order the Dreamcatchers that are metal circles wrapped in yarn and fake beads, fake feathers, I'm sitting there going, what do you think that's going to do? I mean, what do you really think that's going to do? That has, it has no mojo in it. It has nothing real in it. It's all fake. What do you think it's going to work? And I know a lot of people just like them for decor, but if you're somebody like me and you got took into the tent by the elders and stressed the importance of it, it's kind of disrespectful to watch people get pink flamingo marabou feathers that are fake and put it on a pink acrylic yarn. It's just irritating. So David's heating him up some dinner. So this is the slowest part of the process. I never add beads on the outside round because I want the wood to stand out, but I will start adding beads when I get 2 or 3 runs in. And I have these big beads that I'm going to do that I like the patterns on. They're wood. But also have my buffalo horn beads that were made by a guy in Oklahoma. And then I have my other wooden beads that are smaller. I also have all my gemstones and tiger's eye piece and other stuff down in here. And I have some checked glass beads, but I only use those if I'm trying to add a sparkle. I really don't try to use anything that's not natural. So, and this is a slow process. And when I get it to a certain point, I can kind of hang it up or hang it on the back of a chair. Or I've got a very expensive TV stand that we never use that I've learned to hang them on and stand and wrap them if my legs are good enough that I can stand long enough to do it. And it's really good. But I'm also working on a Dreamcatcher right now that is about 3 foot across for a consignment sale at a trail riding facility. And so it's going to be one I have to hang on the wall and work on because it's just not going to be one that I can manhandle. I'm trying to get everything done today because later I have to clear the table so that David can put together a beaver hoop.
Do it outside.
Always doing it outside. Yay, I don't have to clean my
I just told you that.
don't have to clean my kitchen. Don't have to clean my kitchen table off.
Don't throw it out the door before you get done.
He said if he doesn't throw it out the door before he gets it done. He said a frustrating morning, I guess.
No, just right away.
So we're about halfway through the first round now. This is the most frustrating, the one that you have to be the carefulest on because the spacing will indicate how tight your weave gets. The pattern will always change and do its own thing. I don't care how particular you are, and if you mark and measure, it will always change and do its own thing. That's why I don't go particular and mark and measure. I just measure with my joints on my finger because it doesn't matter how careful you are. The weaving will do whatever it wants to do for whoever you're making it for. So I don't put a lot of rigidity in what I expect it to do for me. I just kind of let it do. So I've gotten to where I like to use multiple colors in my Dreamcatchers, which is really weird for me because I used to be just flat white or beige. And now I've gotten to where I really like to put some colors in and do some color combos. But I still used the waxed jute because that is what you're supposed to use. So hey, we're getting there, people. We're getting there. Now, when you get to the double wrapped portion where you put your brace, you just treat it like you do anything else, and you just go around both. You just go around both and pull it and just keep going. You don't do anything special, try to go between or anything like that. You want the wood to show, and if you bind the wood, it's not good mojo, according to the little old lady that taught me how to do this. You don't ever want to bind the wood too much. And so the one that I've ever wrapped the most, I had to wrap a third of it because it kept cracking, even though it bent really well for me. It kept cracking. But then when the young man told me he was the oldest of 3 and basically raising his siblings, I was like, well, that makes sense. Okay, and then I'm just going to come in and do a little one right here to finish up this little gap that's right here. And I may or may not lace into it when I go back around. It just depends on my mood and what I think it will look like. Oscar, you okay?
Yeah.
Are you okay? He coughed. That waked me out. Okay, so now we have the complete first round done, and that is just your frame tied to your wood. I put it kind of tight, but I leave some flex because you've got to get your needle and you've got to be able to work in there. So now is where I will come in, straighten out my twine that I somehow always put 5,000 knots in when I start. I will straighten out my twine, and I will take my plastic needle. I use a plastic needle because I have stuck myself way too much. Plastic canvas needles I think are ideal for this because you can bend them. You see how mine's bent, and it will hook in and curve back to you. Now when you start your second round, what you want to do, there's multiple ways to do it, but the easiest way to do it is just go to the middle. So here's where I looped and here's where I looped. Go in the middle of that piece of string, go through, and then make sure you come back through the circle, pull your tail through, and pull tight. And you want it to be in the middle. And if you get somehow off middle, you can use your needle to go in between and move it and tighten it back up. And then move to the next. Let me tip this on down a little bit more. Move to your next gap. Go in and make sure that you come through your hole. Move it to where it's in the middle and tighten. And so you're starting to see these little triangles form right here. These will just continue to get smaller and smaller as you weave. And that is why my weaves get terribly, terribly small in the middle, is because I choose to start out with such a tight weave. But I like the patterns that it creates, and I think it allows more character to show. So that's why I do it that way. So I don't cheat and use super wide spacing. These take me a while to weave. I do not cheat and use super big spacing. These take me a while to weave when I sit down to weave them. So, but see, I'm just making a little line of that. Now to the next one I'm going to do, I'm going to actually put a circle in a circle and do a crescent around it. That'll be a little bit more interesting. But this is just how you start a dream catcher. Yeah, my hands are really sore. If you can see my finger right there, you see this is what happens to my hands when I weave, and that's why I wrap them a lot. So you see my calluses and what it does to my fingers, and it's not fun. And I do have days where they actually will crack open and bleed, and I have to wrap them in medical tape and gauze and continue. And but if I don't use my hands, then my hands get to where they don't want to work, and then I end up with more problems that I don't want to deal with. So it's just better if I try to keep going, so that my hands don't get stiff and I don't start to have the shake in the trimmer. If I stop using my hands for a week or two, or if I'm having a flare and I'm down for a week or two, then I will start to have that trimmer back in my hands. And so I try every day to use them, because if I don't, that trimmer will come back with a vengeance. So the only way to really keep it at bay is to use my hands. And some days they don't want to function really well for me. And saw me the other day trying to finish that bracelet, and I had to set it aside because my hands were not functioning and it was making me very irritated. So there are some days that I have to put certain crafts aside and say, no, I can't do that today. I don't have the power. I don't have the coordination. And then there's some days they work really well. Today they're working really well. My legs are horrible today. But my hands seem to be okay today. So work with what you got. But this will take me quite a while to finish weaving. So I think what I'm going to do, unless y'all have some questions or anything for me, I think what I'm going to do is probably finish this up on a time lapse, or record it and then do a speed up so that you all can watch me weave a little bit more quickly. I'll probably have to turn around and hang it on a chair or on the wall, but I'll try to get an angle to where y'all can see at least what I'm doing. These are not difficult to weave. Now, some of the other patterns that I do are a little bit more intense, and you have to know certain tricks and certain patterns of needlework. But once you learn them, it's not that bad. I just really like the old fashioned regular weave, but I did a 10 strand stack weave on that little one that I did for the lady on the Noodle Mash channel, and it turned out really cute. And so sometimes I'll switch it up, but I just like the normal plain weave. And if you run out of twine, all you have to do is tie on and try to hide your knot behind a loop if at all possible. If not, put a bead on it. Get creative. Um, there will be, when you do a Dreamcatcher, you need to also put what they call a spider on it, which is the thing that guards the net, which is anything shiny or a big bead that basically sits on the weave. You need to put bait for the bad mojo, which are the beads and shiny stuff and dangles and feathers. And then what I add on myself is like the protector, and that is normally a part of an animal that and I have plenty to choose from thanks to my husband. Part of an animal that I think has a quality that is needed for some reason in the weave that it's shown me. I did a weave that was very abstract and abnormal and odd, and I ended up putting a bobcat jaw on it because bobcats are very adaptive. And then I had one lady that was very, very much OCD that I did a weave for. She was a sweetie pie though. And I put a raccoon skull on her because raccoons are kind of OCD in their own way as well. So I thought that would be a good kind of match for her little spirit animal. So now I'm about 2 in. You're starting to see the pattern come out. I just used that, so I'm going to have to tie on. So I'll be doing this for the next couple of hours. Misfit, if you want to order a Dreamcatcher, you can email me at watersworkload@gmail.com. And that's 1T, watersworkload, all one word, @gmail.com. And I like to know what's going on, some of your favorite things, primary fears or struggles that you're having to think why you would, think this would be helpful in your home. And I don't get too in depth with you, but I'll ask you a few kind of psych profiling questions, and then I'll start weaving. And as I weave, I will stay in communication with you and tell you what I pick up. You can tell me if it's right or not. And I try to keep them somewhere between 10 and 14-inch diameter, so shipping is not a huge issue. I try to keep them really 10 to 12 for shipping, but sometimes I get carried away. But I normally do them for around 25 to 35 plus shipping, depending on how many feathers or how many additional things that you request or want. Because I use real gemstones, real bison horn beads, real wood beads, real gem beads, real feathers. I might add a sparkle every now and again just for a bling, but like 98% of these are authentically real. So you can email me and we can talk about it. And if you don't feel good doing a private purchase, which I really only charge what I put into them, I don't really make money. I just like to do this. This is how I feel useful. But if you don't like to do a private purchase, then I can always let David put it on his Etsy store. And if you like the security of the Etsy purchase program, we'll put it on the Etsy store, send you the link so that you can go snag it and buy it on Etsy. A lot of people like the protection they have when they purchase on Etsy, and that's fine. We understand that. But this is just basically what I do to order more craft stuff to keep my hands working. I certainly don't make any money in it. David makes the money at the fur and the fur arts. And this is just what I do because I like to help people, and so I try to continue this and help people. Denise, one of my mods, I think 5 months ago I made her granddaughter one, and she was plagued with almost nightmares, night terrors every night. She has not had a night terror in 5 months. The only dream she's had was about waking up and finding all the cabinets in the kitchen full of cake icing. I think that's a great dream. And she just took like this massive placement test for college at the age of 15 and blew it out of the water. So all she needed was some balance and the ability to sleep and a little bit of inspiration that she had a little bit more control in her life than she thought she had. So she's doing remarkable, and I'm really tickled about that. Okay, Miss Pitt, yeah, just email me. I'll check it later today. And mine are rustic, authentic willow framed. If you don't have a willow frame on your Dreamcatcher, it's not going to work. Metal frames are not going to work. Wooden cross stitch frames are not going to work. The adage is you need a willow frame. And red willow is preferable, but willow, it has to be willow. So there are some people that use grapevine, and they're a close second to willow, but willow is preferable, and what I was always told was what we were supposed to use. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this, and then I'm going to hang it up. I'll do a video time lapse. You all can watch and see what it turns into. And just hope I have the energy to finish it all at one round. So I'm going to get busy on that, and then maybe later today I'll come back and chew the fat with you a little bit more. But thanks for joining me. I hope if you want to make one of these yourself, you got an idea of how to start. I'll show you the rest of it and try to get that uploaded later this evening for you. So I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye.